You know, here in the room, there's a handful of us. And I know there's many of you viewing there virtually. But if you're in the room, feel free to come forward, because we're going to have a conversation here. And it's going to be much less of a pitch than just a conversation about where this is going. I'm Jon Stine. I'm the executive director of the Open Voice Network. This is a bit about me. As you can see from this slide and from the color of my hair, I have a few miles on my odometer, have been around the loop, and it's also, I've seen a number of the changes within the digital industries. From being asked when I started at Intel years ago, would women ever use the internet? Imagine the misogynistic type question. I was asked to write a paper on that. Would women ever use the internet? To now asking questions about, as Jeff was speaking and Diana was speaking, convenience and data and what it's going to mean for the brand in this ambient world that Jeff so well and began to describe. But let me do a couple things here. Number one, I'm going to tell you a story about a coffee shop in Cambridge. I want to give you and share with you some three big ideas the Open Voice Network is working on, talk about ethics and value propositions, and lastly, ask whether all of you, those of you who are developers, those of you who are in creation industries and creation firms, are you at the adults table or are you at the kids table? And shouldn't we all be at the adults table? We'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, let's talk about coffee in Cambridge. Where did this Open Voice Network come from? What is it? Where did it come from? 2016, I'm with the Intel Corporation, sitting down with some friends at MIT. We're at a lovely coffee shop on Mass Avenue. You may have been there, called Flower. And the question, I thought we'd talk about the Red Sox. It was the summer. Instead, the question that was raised was this one. What do you think over the next 5 to 10 years? And think of how this question was phrased by the MIT professors. What will be the most game-changing, paradigm-shifting technology that will recreate the relationship between a user and, say, a brand like Walmart, or a mental health provider, or a financial advisor, a movie studio, between a user and a user of technology? What's going to reshape that the most? We could talk about in 2016, of course, you'd bring up IoT, you'd bring up AR, VR, of course, you would bring up blockchain. Everyone talked about blockchain. One of us said voice. Alexa came out 2 years prior. Google was bringing out their work. Siri had been in the market. I said voice. That led to conversations and research. That led to a relationship with the Linux Foundation. How many of you are familiar with the Linux Foundation? The great nonprofit, open source set of communities that is dedicated to a world where technology is available to anyone, used by anyone. There's no boundaries. The Linux Foundation said, gosh, we think, and you think, the voice world as we know it and as we envision it is going to need standards. Voice will need standards. Maybe you guys could help do that. Now, I have been told many times that when you talk about standards, that is, oh my God, that is the most boring topic on earth. Oh my God, standards. Please don't talk to us about standards. That's boring meetings, lengthy conversations, asking how many angels dance on the head of a pin, It's really awful stuff. So I promise you, from this point forward, I'm not going to talk about standards. I'm going to talk about what standards means to this voice industry and why they are critical to our collective future. First of all, this is not going to be a boring presentation, I promise you. In fact, this should be the highest blood pressure pitch of Pete's entire event. Because this is about your future, your data, your opportunity to grow, the size of the market, and whether or not we will be 300 people in a room or even 5,000 people in a room a few years from now, or whether we'll have 100,000 in the room. It's whether we measure our success in the tens of thousands or in the billions. This is the highest blood pressure pitch of the day because, let's go down the list. Standards are about money. Standards are about who gets it, who claims it, what percent you get. Standards are about money because standards are about data. Data is the currency of our realm. It will be the currency of our realm. The question is who gets it, who claims it, and are you an ATM for major players? Enterprises who are looking at the use of voice technology, the question is one less of the technology. Diana's presentation was fantastic today, and she showed a set of steps. And one of those steps clearly was you come to the question of data. Who owns it? Who has it? Who uses it? Huge question. Data is about money. Money is about data. Standards are about money and data. When we ask the questions, who claims it, who wins it, we ultimately come back to questions of standards. Standards are all about users. Now again, back to that coffee shop in Cambridge, there was users connecting to users. Users connecting to users. All of you in this room, all of us in this room, are working on behalf of the users of conversational AI, whether it's a chatbot, whether it's voice, whether it be a voice assistant, whether it'll be the personal voice assistant that Jeff was speaking about a moment ago. We are all working on behalf of users. Those users are the individuals. Those users are the enterprises. Those users are the decision makers in the enterprises and organizations. Standards benefit users. Users using technology makes markets grow. And until users trust the technology fully, this market will not grow and the opportunities before us will not be realized. Standards create trust for enterprises. We use the phrase of the Open Voice Network, we are here, we exist to create voice worthy of user trust. Let that phrase sink in for a moment. Voice worthy of user trust. Because trust is just not about privacy. Trust is not just about data. Trust is not just about will it work or not. Trust is about, is there a value for my business? Trust is about, should I invest in this more than something else? Trust is about all the things Diana was speaking about. Trust is, I believe in this enough to take something out of my budget and put in this. That's trust. Standards enable enterprise trust. And finally, standards are about growing the market. Do we believe this market should be measured by the number of skills and actions? Or should we believe this market should be measured in the billions of destinations, because we would suggest that standards will enable the creation of the worldwide voice web. This is about your personal assistant. This is about connecting to the 200 million websites through conversational AI, voice-enabled, chat-enabled, conversational AI-enabled. This is about connecting outside and through the walled gardens to all those IoT sensors that can shut and turn off and open and heat and light. This is about connecting to the theaters and the museums. This is about connecting to the world of billions of destinations. Professor Monica Lamb at Stanford has brought forward this idea. This is our potential future, if indeed we choose a route that is guided and guardrailed by standards. How big do we want our business to be? How big do you want our opportunity to be? How many customers does Capital One want to reach? That's the question before us. Now, to do this, to reach this, I share 4 big ideas. They're on the screen here, from left to right. User privacy, data sovereignty, data owned, data claimed, data given with consent. Your data is your data. Your company's data is its company's data. Huge issue. Second, interoperability. We applaud what Jeff spoke about, and we applaud the Amazon Interoperability Initiative. They brought to the table the question of interoperability. We would argue, however, that humans don't just shut down one and go to another. 2 devices, 2 platforms, 2 agents on a single device is but a start. Let us have the agents talk to one another. Let us have the agents reach out. Let us have your agent, whatever that is, connect to that worldwide voice web, and not just shut one down to jump to another. Let us expand our vision of what interoperability must be. Destination registry and management. One of the ongoing issues for those working within proprietary platforms is discoverability. They can't find me. I'm not making any money. I'm not getting any attention whatsoever. I'm lost. We need a DNS for voice. We need a way to find those destinations. We need a way for explicit requests to be received. And finally, we all know, voice may be the single richest source of data across all the biometrics that we have. We know what it can infer through ML and AI. We know what it can reveal through biometric analysis, biomarker analysis. It's extraordinarily rich. The research is rolling right now. COVID, schizophrenia, Parkinson's, on and on and on and on and on and on and on. This is not to be just shrugged at. This is not, if you're an enterprise, something to say, oh, well, don't worry about it, well, that's be fine, we'll just secure the data. Issues of privacy, ethical issues of use, all before us. There on the far right, the richness of voice data. Let me talk about now interoperability and share with you a vision of how this, we believe, should work. Because conversational AI, whether it's chat or voice, however we define it, and again, Diana's presentation was superb, however we define it, it's between users. An individual seeking a destination. An individual seeking to fulfill an intent. Two users. Now, currently, let's say we have an utterance here, a user, and we have a desired destination. Could be any destination, and these, the brands shown here, are but examples, okay? You can, just through a chat bot, you can connect to a brand through an IVR, a chat bot. You're using your cellular device, your text, your voice, whatever else. That's a starting point. Again, I did these slides before we reviewed Diana's slides, but I think we're pretty much in sync here. You can also, a voice-enabled website, connect. Pretty simple. Note, it's private still. You're within the firewall of the company, the destination you're working with. That's great. Exciting. You can reach out through a general purpose assistant, as we have here. Data use may be in question. Whose data is it? The user, or the platforms? Or we could be using an open source agent, such as Genie out of Stanford, or many others that are emerging. That may be where our personal assistant resides. That may be private, or we could be, now think about interoperability. You're in your car, you just checked your Bank of America balance. And now you have enough money to buy the refrigerator you wanted at the destination. Or we can say that's a Capital One instead of Bank of America. You want to go not to drop one assistant and then go to another. You want to go from Bank of America to Target to make the purchase. All that means that destination will need to create a multifunctional, multimodal conversational agent. This is inevitable. And that conversational agent will be built on one of a number of platforms. Raza uses an example, but it could be any one. And when components have some sense of interoperability and standardization, choose the best. Better for the users. Better for those who are innovating. And then you would want to reach out to a whole set of conversational capabilities that are independent, that are available to you. You want to advise your users on the weather. You want to advise your users on a shopping list. You want to advise your users on their bank balance, whatever that is. Independent conversational capabilities available to everyone. And there's a market there for those who are developing conversational capabilities. And then finally, you want to be reaching directly through a leading first agent to all kinds of other agents. Take a step, take the next step in interoperability. From Target to Bank of America, United, Hilton, health problem, Cleveland Clinic. You have an implicit request, reach out through Google for search. And then if you're a human, last I checked, we all are, our conversational patterns go back and forth. We start, we stop, we interrupt, we react, we check with different people, and so we'll go back and forth. We'll go back and forth. We are right now developing, and have just published our next paper on interoperability. We will not be recommending the standardization of components nor interfaces. We are working on a model that reflects human behavior and communication, that enables agents of different parentage to share dialogues, data, context, the history of a communication, and controls, privacy, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, up and down, as we communicate. A human model for interoperability. Taking that next critical step. That's where we're headed, because that's where we need to go as an industry. Now, ethics and value propositions. A few other things about the Open Voice Network. When we talk about human communication, we talk about the use of data. We talk about a human speaking to a device, speaking to an algorithm, AI, all that's there. We must do two things. We must respect existing rights, rights of privacy, GDPR, CCPA, be guided by such things as the recent European Union data protection work on voice. And we are taking all those seriously and studying those. Oida Coleman, who's here, Michael Novak, who's here, working hard on those critical questions. What are the boundaries? What are the rules? But we also must ask the question, because this is not a value-free environment. This is not just, hey, it's technology, let's have fun. We have humans and societies and cultures and communities. What values must we promote? Respecting rights, promoting values. We have to ask both questions for the future of voice technology. And so Oida leads our ethical use task force. I see Mary Alice here. Michael, many others, Audrey, members of the Open Voice Network Ethical Use Task Force, asking the critical questions: what values should we, must we promote for the future of voice assistance? We know that standards must work in the real world. It's not just a theoretical task. And so we've put together a number of groups of industries: commerce, retail, and CPG, because it's not just about the shopping list, it's about operational efficiency. It's not just about the shopping list, but it's about listening to customers. It's working with GS1, the great standards organization, doing a pilot in a Washington, D.C. area store. How can you use voice for, say, the Instacart shopper? What are the efficiency gains for that? That's what these kind of organizations are doing. K through 12 education, lesson plans using voice. Think about the value of teaching alternative languages. Health, wellness, and life sciences, led by Dr. Harry Pappas. We'll have a small panel presentation tomorrow morning, I think it is. One key use case, looking at use cases here and value propositions, ethical issues, aging in place. My father-in-law lives alone in the family home in a suburb of Indianapolis. On January 1st, he'll be 98. He doesn't want to move anywhere. By God, he won't. Some of you may have older parents like that. Now, I would give my eye teeth, and my wife would give perhaps more than that, for someone to be able to listen to sounds in Glenn's home. He lives on an old 1960s tri-level. There are loose rugs all over the place. I mean, it's a trap. And the only way my wife is going to know if something has gone wrong is if he doesn't pick up the phone on the Sunday morning call. That's a terrible way. The opportunity for using conversational AI, listening, talking, connecting, and aging in place is but one of the dozens of use cases that Harry Pappas and team are now investigating in our Health, Wellness, and Life Sciences group. Practitioners, researchers, clinicians. Media and entertainment. Our team led by Donna Buckley, former SVP Showtime and Warner Brothers Pictures. Not only do you love all the Marvel characters, but now you're talking with them. You're a fan of Batman, and Batman puts you to sleep. You have the opportunity through synthetic voice to have Samuel L. Jackson speaking as only Samuel L. Jackson can in a movie in Beijing, but he's speaking Mandarin in Samuel L. Jackson's voice, as opposed to a voiceover actor who is in a tenor and doesn't sound anything like Samuel L. Jackson that you and I know. Voice and media entertainment. Remarkable opportunities. We look at use cases, and we look at use cases that will be advising and testing the standards we develop. And then finally, our synthetic voice study group. We'll have a conversation on that with our great partners Veritone this afternoon. Like any AI, can be used for good, and we can do TikTok. What are those boundaries? What are those guidance? What might be there for watermarking, standardization that protects and advises us all? Where can and should be used? Talking to a clinic in Birmingham, Alabama, working with cerebral palsy children. By God, we wish we could give them a voice. A few final slides. And I'll shut up and we'll take some questions. What are we about? Many of you know the Geoffrey Moore crossing the chasm concept. This is from the early 2000s days of the internet. A critical question for us as a community is, what is the operative definition of Main Street, and what will it take to get there, and where are we? The voice industry has come a remarkable way, and one cannot talk about the voice industry without a standing applause to the leadership of Rebecca and her team at Google, to Jeff and his team at Amazon, to those at Siri. I mean, it's just been stunning, their leadership, and they deserve our thanks and our applause. If we, however, do not take the next step, and I would say it's a maturation step of the industry. It's growing up from being gawky teenagers or children to becoming adults. That adult step is the adoption of and the pursuit communally of standards. Lightweight, industry-derived, so it's not coming from government. We make the choice on the things that will enable us to do more, faster, better, smarter, cheaper, to the benefit of users. Back to that initial conversation. We're probably somewhere in here, because I would argue the definition of Main Street is full enterprise use. The definition of Main Street is the approaching of the World Wide Voice Web. skills and actions, love them. Worldwide voice web. We're an enterprise and we're testing some things, we're really not sure, and we've got a 22-year-old kid who is very good at writing code and he's doing something on a test and we'll try it out. This is in my budget. I'm investing in conversational AI in all kinds of modes, from chat to voice, because it's important. Second slide here. We have a bifurcated reality in voice right now. This is said with great respect to our proprietary walled gardens. There's an adults table, and there's a kids table. Now, when I was growing up in the Midwest, because of my behavior, I was sent to the kids table. My mother kept me there. We have no room in voice anymore for a kids' table. We all should be at the adults' table. The adults' table happens when we choose to develop and implement the standards, ethical use guidelines, and value propositions that enable all of us to grow up. Final. This is how you can help. I'm always looking for money because money helps us hire the professionals to advance and accelerate our work. Right now, we're hiring individuals to advance our work in interoperability. We will have our first demos on interoperability, agent-to-agent data, dialogue, context control in about 30 days. We've just published a paper on what that means and where we're going. Come to me, I'll send you a PDF. You have an opportunity to sponsor our work. And sponsorship means you have your hands on our strategic steering wheel. This is where we should go. This is how fast we can go. I want my people involved. I want my people in leadership. That's a tremendous opportunity for you. Companies such as Deutsche Telekom, Microsoft, Target Corporation, Schwartz Group, the leading retailer in Europe, you know them by the name of Lidl, are all sponsors, as well as many others. We also have the opportunity to participate. Join our working teams. Attend when you can. Be part of the conversation that is advancing this work. Mary Alice, Audrey, Michael, Oida, many others in this conference are all part of those conversations on a regular basis. When they can, when schedules permit, when opportunities allow, because they're dedicated, as we are, to a future of voice that includes everyone. I'm Jon Stine, Open Voice Network. Pete, thanks for the opportunity. Thank you all for your time.